Thanks for giving me an opportunity to summarize some of the things colleagues and I have found in Yarl's Wood in the recent past. The Immigration Minister, Tony McNulty, tells us again and again that caring for detained asylum seekers is equivalent to the NHS. The evidence that at least 5 other doctors and I from Medical Justice have seen in over 20 cases at Yarl's Wood says otherwise. We've written permission from our patients to say what we will say today, information that we might otherwise think covered by medical confidentiality. But these people want us to say what they've been through. The first woman that I saw in Yarl's Wood had been tortured and raped in her country of origin. And there is blatant physical and psychological evidence and scars showing indeed the evidence of her torture. There's also clear-cut medical evidence that she'd been injured during an attempt to remove her from the UK, which is unfortunately very common. She'd been prevented from obtaining essential medication, which had been prescribed for her when she was living in the community, and she'd been without it for a month. Following the experience of denial of treatment and the experience of being beaten up on the way to the airport, she went on hunger strike. I was asked to see her by colleagues who said that she was very ill. She was. It took, however, the force of threats of legal action and extended negotiations with a medical centre that insisted, and this is a bank holiday Friday, that we could call back on the Tuesday. I remember saying to the nurse I was speaking to, they could be dead or irreversibly damaged by that time. Despite that, A, no effort was made to measure a pulse or blood pressure, which was directly relevant, despite advice to do so. And B, I was only able to get in to see her after threats of legal action from somebody sitting on this panel. Anyway, went in to see her. She was freezing cold in the middle of hot summer. She was wearing 4 layers of fleece. She couldn't stand up without help. She'd had a collapse not long before. She was ill. It took 24 hours of negotiations with the on-call doctor for Veritas, who run the medical services of that detention center, to get her into hospital. That very day when I was negotiating to get to see her, when she'd been on hunger strike for 34 days, a certain Miss Sue Jones, who is the manager of the medical center at Yarl's Wood, sent a fax in response to a query from the Home Office, and I quote verbatim, "There are no concerns about their health." In direct contradiction to everything that both McNulty and Charles Clark have said, neither of the 2 ladies I was seeing that day had been seen by a doctor for 15 days. Look, there isn't time to go into details of all the 20 patients here. I'll say a bit about a few other issues, if I may. First, there's a family, mother, 5 children aged 9 to 15, who were taken from their home in the north of England via Yarl's Wood to be returned to an African country. They're taken to the airport twice. 3 attempts were made to board them on the plane. On the 3rd attempt to do so, the youngest boy had an epileptic fit. They knuckled him on the chest with a view to trying to prove that his apparent fit was a fake. This was an attempt to induce pain to restore consciousness, and brutally done. He was very tender in the chest when I saw him the next couple of days later. Anyway, I saw all the family. 5 hours after I saw them, they were grabbed and they were removed from the country. An 18-hour journey during which they're given no food, and at no point were they given any protection against malaria, and they're being sent back to a very high risk for malaria, having lost their resistance, having lived in this country for 3 years. We have the path reports on them from hospitals in the country they've been sent back to. They all have malaria and they are sick, and the Home Office have done nothing to prevent this. Home Office rules say that survivors of torture should not ordinarily be detained. I was going to say something about that, but Nikki already has. Basically, there is a process, all right, and what it consists of is this. The torture or rape survivor tells the doctor in the detention center is required to ask them, are you a victim of torture? He is required to inform his manager, who is required to inform the manager of the detention center, who is required to inform the compliance officer imposed by the Home Office to monitor contracts. She is required to inform the port of entry people at IND, who are required to inform the Management of Detained Cases Unit, who, as far as I can see, file it in the circular file. That is their procedure for investigating torture. There's also been, not very long ago, the death of a woman who had recently been in Yarlswood of tuberculosis with open TB in a hospital in Birmingham. The Yarlswood Medical Centre and Yarlswood itself have records so inadequate they didn't know who had been sharing a room with her. Yarlswood is not only a threat to the health of the detainees, it's a threat to the public health. Final point. Mr. McNulty claims that medical centres in removal centres have excellent facilities and detainees can obtain access to 24-hour care. Mr. McNulty is either misinformed or not truthful. The Home Office are not competent to take responsibility for anyone's health. That's not surprising. They're incapable of safely managing prison health care. This has been transferred to the NHS. Why should asylum seekers who've been convicted of no crime be subjected to the so-called care that is not imposed on proven criminals? Thank you.